Everyone, how are you? I am Cindy, and I am very excited to be talking to you about selling online. And I have a few slides and just kind of hoping to get a sense of what you might be looking for as far as selling online. But I'm going to give you a general overview today, and I will go ahead and start my slides here. And selling online today, we're going to talk about the obvious things like Amazon and Etsy and fees and metrics, but we also want to talk about just the holistic view of selling online, because it's more than just being on a website. It can include marketing and research and even a retail location. So we're going to cover off all of those things. And it's interesting. I was at dinner last night with two friends of mine that are do marketing for companies that are B2C within the online space. One of them is a personalized greetings company, and then the other one is fashion. And they were talking about lamenting some of the changes that just have happened on Amazon and how frustrating it is. One of them works with a big agency out of Chicago that specializes in Amazon listings and copy, and they're just not cutting it anymore because Amazon's changing their algorithm so quickly that they can't keep up. So it's an ongoing process when you sell online. If anyone claims to be an absolute expert, they're probably wrong, because the landscape is always changing when you're selling online and with anything digital these days. So just a little bit about me to start. I teach retail at MiraCosta, which is a community college down here in San Diego. I'm an adjunct professor of business and also teach retail marketing and retail management. And I am also an entrepreneur. I've owned my company, Darlington Marketing, for about 13 years. And we are specialists in retail and restaurant and grocery marketing. We work with a lot of large grocery chains. We work with several food retail products, as well as across the restaurant industry. So we are one of the most specialized and biggest agencies in Southern California for retail marketing. And I was a VP marketing as well for restaurant groups, hospitality groups throughout my career. But I love being an entrepreneur. I love having my own business. It's the best decision that I ever made. I got my bachelor's degree at Cal Poly, go Mustangs, and my master's in business at the University of San Francisco. So I am a proud Cal Poly Mustang, and I love speaking to anything that goes on in San Luis Obispo. It always makes me happy to hear what is happening up there with the CIE and SBDC. So, and as I mentioned, we've sold retail products online and in retailers, but it is a changing landscape. We just had a major project that we did 2 weeks ago for Instacart. And if you think about Instacart or another company like DoorDash, they are one of the leading players in the online sales space. But what's really cool about them is that they don't carry product. They don't carry inventory. They've made their whole business based on third-party sales. And we did a large SEO project for Instacart and one of their grocery partners. And it's just amazing to see the pull that they have and the power that they have, but no product, no inventory, not a lot of these worries. So that's an interesting thing to think about when you're considering selling online. Is there something that you can do where you're not shouldering all of that? Because that tends to be one of the biggest challenges in retail. So just quickly today, what we are going to talk about is the starting points for selling online, where to sell, what are the different platforms, what's the difference between setting up a website and a point of sale, and then talking about the online marketplaces, specifically Amazon and Etsy, and then why it could be also important to get into retail establishments. What are the essential marketing elements you will need if you are going to sell online, and then a few tools and links. And what I would love to know, if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat, specifically for anyone here, what kind of products or businesses are you looking to start online, or how far down the road you are? And if you could put that into the chat, I'd appreciate it, because that would help me speak to your needs specifically. So I will wait for that. Again, just put it in the chat if there's anything specific that you want to go over in terms of selling online. And so let's talk about starting a retail business. Now, I'm making the assumption that people are in more of a startup phase. You may have a long established business, but If you're starting a retail business, there are a number of questions that you're going to want to ask. A startup company getting ready to sell their first product online. Okay, great, perfect. So you probably already know what kind of products you're selling, and what kind of problem does that product solve. So in marketing, of course, we call that the USP, or the unique selling proposition. So I see a lot of startups trying to be everything to everyone. And we always say, if you try to be everything to everyone, you become nothing to no one, because you have to know what you're specializing in. So to say, we're going to have a website where we sell food. Okay, what types of food? Well, we're going to sell gluten-free breads, or something a little bit more specific. When I first started my agency, there were a lot of other agencies in San Diego that said, we do marketing. Well, what kind of marketing? Well, any kind of marketing, anything you need, we can do it. And we just kind of ended up in the path of, we do food marketing, we do retail, grocery, and restaurant food. And that's sort of become our niche. And, there are riches in the niches, as they say. So think about specializing and growing from there, and being really good at one thing to start. And then research what is being sold online. Who is your target market? There's a lot of great information out there for consumer demographics. You can look those up online, census data, but also figuring out, does your product make sense? And I was looking at one of our a business group that I'm in, somebody is doing a candle business. So we started looking up, okay, well, what is the market for candles? And does anyone have a guess for how big the candle industry was in 2022? And I will give you a hint, it's $1 billion with a B. So how many $1 billion is the candle industry? And I will answer, if no one has a guess, that would be a $12 billion industry in 2022 for candles. And that's a 5.7% growth year over year for that specific industry. So if you're looking at going and selling candles online, that's probably a great market for you to look in. But there's other ways for you to determine what to sell. You can look at different research trends, and there's an excellent website that I'm going to type into the chat, which is, if you haven't seen it, trends.google.com. And that is a site where you can tell what's trending in Google searches. And over the last year, the trends in Google searching, clothing was 41% of all searches, video games 33%, toys 13%, and cosmetics 9%. So you get a sense of what people are looking for. But here's what's interesting. You can look week by week. So last week, the searches were way up on unique thrift store and best affordable shapewear on Google. But the number one search last week on Google was electric candle warmer. That search was up 600%. Now, I have no idea what an electric candle warmer is. I'm assuming it's something that people use in fall in cold weather states, but it's just kind of an interesting way to track what's happening out there and see what people are looking for. Especially, what always gets me is the clothing and the thrift, the vintage clothing, etc. So consider that, and consider your pricing. You need to know what your competitors are charging, and you need to have a sense of what type of market your product is going to sit in. So is it going to be a mass market product, a mid-market product, or a luxury product? And you should have pricing for all three of those tiers. So if you're doing candles, for example, a mass market product would be like a bag of tea lights, priced very low for, let's say, the Amazon set. Mid-market, maybe they're somewhat luxury candles, but more affordable. And then the very luxury candles with maybe partnership scents with a perfume company, things like that. That would be marketed in a very different way and sold in a very different way online. So your pricing is going to really inform that. And then things like, what are you passionate about? You want to make sure it's something that you know and you feel good about selling, because you're going to be doing a lot of it. And just really kind of, again, those target markets. Who's your primary market? Who's your secondary market? So that when we look at sales channels, you'll know who you want to target with what type of product. And then considering where to sell. Now, you're here because you're looking at selling online, but you have a choice to make of how you want to sell. And some of those considerations would be, what are the barriers of entry for the product you're selling. Is there a supply chain issue? If it's not something you're making yourself, that could be a big deal. What are the startup costs for producing product? What is your storage situation? How much product do you need to carry? How many employees do you need to have? What are the technology and patents that you need to get your product going? So those type of things are going to be in your business plan. In the last slide, I'll have a link to the SCORE organization, which has a great business plan template. So if you don't have one, you can start there. And that will help inform you of how you want to sell your product. If you're selling online only, you have an advantage because 88% of customers said they shop online because they want to be able to buy things 24/7. So that really drives people online. And right now, in the current economy, about 16% of products are bought online. 16%, that seems like a small-ish number, but by 2040, the expectation is that 95% of products will be sold online. And that may be something like what we call in retail a BOPIS, which is buy online, pick up in store. So people buy it online, then you can whiz down to your neighborhood store and pick that item up, or even, Walmart does a lot of that type of thing. 90% of fashion is already purchased online. So that industry has already been an early adopter of this technology. But most fashion companies are, or many fashion companies, I should say, not most, are both. They're omni-channel. And that's really the direction that most retailers are trying to go. 80% of companies say they either are omni-channel or they're looking to be omni-channel. And that basically means you're selling in every channel. Someone can find you brick and mortar, someone can find you online, someone can find you maybe on Amazon, but also on your own website. You're just selling as many places as you can, making yourself available to the customer that way. So the advantage of brick and mortar, really, even if you have an online product, is to allow people to touch and feel your product and see it, build that credibility with retailers. And an example would be even Sephora now has a section where they're carrying some of the Instagram beauty brands in store. And that's really cool because you see these brands on Instagram and you think, what are they like? Do they work? So it gives you a chance to actually touch and feel those brands, see them in real life. No, it's not going to be some scam where you're never going to get the product. And so that lends credibility then to those retailers that are also selling online. So even though you're thinking about only selling online, you do want to also give consideration to brick and mortar. And we're going to talk a little bit more about ways to partner with brick and mortar retailers without actually opening a store. So let's first look at sales platforms. What I mean when I say sales platforms is how you are selling. And mostly that means a website. So when you decide you want to sell on your website, there's a lot of different options you can take. And most of these platforms will work with point of sale systems. If you have a retail store, they'll work with payment systems. They'll help you with shipping, printing labels, etc. So you need these in order to start up. And there's 4 kind of larger ones in this space: Wix, Shopify, Squarespace, and Square. And honestly, Wix and Squarespace are more about designing a website. I don't highly recommend them for selling. So I will focus on the 2 most popular ones, which are Shopify and Square. And Shopify is the most popular sales platform for selling online. What's really cool about Shopify, most of our clients who sell online sell on Shopify. And what I like about it is it can scale. It's very scalable when you start small and you get bigger. They have a lot of tools. They can integrate. So Shopify integrates right in with Facebook Shop, Etsy, other sites. And it is very great with tech support. So if you're not somebody that is going to set up something all on your own, you want a lot of support, Shopify is great for that. And if you're selling online only, Shopify is absolutely the best. They have really good stores. They have great metrics. You can market to customers right through Shopify. The cost for Shopify is not the cheapest. And it's hard to say what the exact cost is, but it could be anywhere from $500 to $500 a month. Probably not that helpful, but you can always budget on the higher side and really look into it yourself. But Shopify is a pretty solid platform, and also from a tech side, it has a lot of good, helpful tools. Now, Square is you're probably thinking of Square, the little thing you plug into your phone. If you're selling at a farmer's market, you can swipe on Square. It's really helpful for that. But they have a whole online platform. It's really easy to set up and look at products. Their pricing is pretty set. There's some free options, and they're also they go up to about $150 a month. So it's going to be a little cheaper, but it's also going to be harder to set up because you're gonna have to kind of do it on your own. I always say easy setup, but if you run into a glitch, you're not going to necessarily have tech support right at your fingertips. So something to think about. And it's also harder as you grow. Square doesn't support as many peripheral sales platforms, so it's a good program to start up on. The shipping support is limited, and that can be tough if you're shipping a lot of product. You may want to consider Shopify and compare that with Square. So any questions on those sales programs at all? Okay, well, let's look at, so the other systems that you may or may not need to dive into would be point of sale, POS systems. And these are kind of like your cash register. So if you do have a second selling option, like a brick and mortar or a farmer's market or a pop-up or something like that, you can do your point of sale on existing programs. Shopify and Square do support that. There's another program called Clover that has a great cash register. You probably see it a lot when you flip the iPad in the store to make a purchase, or if you're being asked to tip on something you've never tipped on before. But Clover is great in terms of integrating with almost any system that's out there. And then Toast, if you're a restaurant and you're doing food delivery or that sort of thing, Toast has a great restaurant platform. They integrate with loyalty programs, etc. So even if you're only selling online, if you think there's a chance that you may need to make cash register transactions, you can look at those point of sale options. And then payment processing is something we used to talk a lot about. Most of those are built into the POS system right now, or with Shopify, you can get those. That payment processing is included, but it does cost money every time you take a payment. So you need to consider the fee structure and the compatibility. If you have a product that is low cost and you're expecting a lot of transactions, you want to look at a point of sale system and a payment processor that maybe is a flat fee rather than a transactional fee. So the way you set that up is going to be pretty dependent on what kind of product that you're selling. So let's talk about online marketplaces. So what these are aggregators of online sales. So you might have a website where you sell, but you might be on one or many of these online marketplaces as well. Now, clearly the advantage of selling direct to your website is that you don't have to pay a percentage fee to people that are buying from your site. However, a lot of these sites are, and for your own website, you're not necessarily going to get the traffic you want unless you're spending money on advertising and marketing that site. So aggregators are great for that. It gets eyeballs to your product. And we'll talk about how to do that. But the downside is, of course, there's a cost. You're giving away a percentage of your product with every sale that you make. And once you get sucked into selling on Amazon and places like that, it's hard to get off and have that same kind of traction on your own. So Amazon is the biggest online retailer. Of course, we all know this biggest company in the world. They are selling $16 million of products in a day. 16 million products a day, $1.29 billion a day in sales. That's a lot. They're big. And then Etsy is another one that I like to talk about because for a lot of smaller startups, Etsy is a great place to start. So we'll talk about those. There's other places like Grailed, which is high-end fashion. My son, who's a teenager, loves Temu. Some of those sites are fashion aggregators. Alibaba is kind of the Amazon of China. eBay, I think we all know eBay. It's less of a mass merchandiser site and more of a individual consumer site, but there are mass merchandisers selling on there, sports related, etc. And then Facebook Shop. And I will just say a few things about Facebook Shop. We don't typically recommend Facebook Shop. And the reason And when I say Facebook, know that that also incorporates Instagram, obviously, because Meta owns both of them. Facebook Shop is okay for a small business with a few products, but what Facebook Shop does not offer is any kind of seller protection. So I think of it as almost like selling on Craigslist. It can be challenging sometimes to deal with buyers, and Facebook doesn't offer a lot of that support. They don't have automated ordering and shipping tools. So it's a very hands-on platform. And if you want to be hands-on and monitor all your sales and have that customer communication, this might be for you. They integrate right now with Shopify, but just in August last month, they announced that starting next spring, you can only check out on Instagram and Facebook. They're not going to integrate with some of those other platforms. So pretty much they're keeping everything within their universe. So that's why I wouldn't necessarily recommend Facebook Shop. What I would recommend is Facebook ads that are going to get people to your own website instead. That's probably a better use of your money. But let's talk about the programs that do, or the platforms that do work. Amazon, obviously, we know it works. This is a company that, a couple of companies of a friend of mine, one of them is a bone broth company, one of them is a coffee company, and they both do incredibly well on Amazon. She is an Amazon top seller. She goes up to Seattle for conferences, all kinds of insider info. It's really great. And she has a couple of recommendations for Amazon. One of them being that you have to look at it as a loss leader. At first, it was a money loser, and then she spent money on discounts and ads, which we'll talk about, and eventually started, the algorithm was showing them higher. You can see here, 40% off your first subscription order was one of the discounts that they offered. And they spent a lot of money on the advertising platform, and it did very well for them. And so it's been a long road, but this is the perfect type of product to sell on Amazon. So let's think about what are the top products on Amazon. The top products overall are home entertainment being number one, and that's anything from television, kid speakers, etc. Cookware, laptops, home office furniture, fitness gear, fashion, and cameras. Those have been pretty stable for a while. Sometimes dog products zoom in and out of there. Those are pretty popular also on Amazon. But the top sellers now, these change seasonally. And so right now we have fall dish towels, seasonal outdoor signage, so this is like Halloween flags that your mom used to have in the front yard, remember, with a pumpkin on it. Pumpkin coffee, portable stadium seats, obviously it's football season, we all need those. Garden rakes and denim. So you can see a real fall theme, and Amazon does have a lot of seasonality to it. But if you want to research what is popular on Amazon, the best thing to do is go to bestsellers, or go to a category on Amazon that has different subcategories. So if you're looking at fitness gear, and you might be looking at weights, and then you might see free weights and different, weight bar, different types of weights. And so you can get a sense of how many categories there are, and maybe where there are some holes in that marketplace on Amazon that you could help fill. So Amazon, sorry, I have lots of my notes on Amazon. So you can research that. You can tell what your product would do on Amazon, and then you can start thinking about what it would cost to sell that product on Amazon. So Amazon's fees initially, to get started on Amazon, I recommend budgeting about $2,500 to $5,000. And that includes the product inventory that you have to amass to start selling on Amazon. So $2,500 to $5,000 is about right. You can do it for $500 or less if you do your own photography, your own design, your own etc. And you can, I'm also assuming you might need a trademark, or you might need some other things. You might hire someone to do your writing, etc. So if you don't have any of that, you can start up pretty inexpensively. But if you do that, if you do kind of the recommended way, you would be doing photography, you would be having someone help you write your Amazon listings. There are companies that do that. my recommendation would be, and I hate to say this, but AI is a really great tool for writing Amazon listings, or if you want to spend the time and do the research, you can look in your category at the best sellers and see what's trendy. That's usually a good way. We write a lot of Amazon listings, and there's really no magic to the algorithm. It's looking at what's selling and what words they're using, and writing your listings based off of that. So as far as fees on Amazon, there's several ways that they do their fee structure. So the first thing that you, need to know is that Amazon has a fee of about 6 to 25%, depending on what you're selling. And that includes a referral fee and a transaction fee. Their transaction fees can be 99 cents an item, $40 a month, $39.99 is kind of the average that you pay for transaction fees. And then the referral fee, again, that averages about 13%. It can be anywhere from 6 to 25%, depending on what type of product. So those referral fees vary. If you are selling Amazon device accessories like Kindle cover, things like that, you're paying 45%. So it's quite a bit off the top that you would be paying to sell on Amazon. In addition, Amazon recommends that you spend money on discounts and advertising. So what they're recommending is about $10 a day or $300 a month that you would spend on advertising. That would give you $10 a day, for example, would give you 20 to 30 clicks per day on your product. That's an estimate. So if you're getting 20 to 30 clicks on your product, and let's say your conversion rate is 1 out of 20 or 5%, then you would be selling one product a day for that price. So depending on the price of your product, that may or may not be a good deal for you to consider. So that's Amazon, a little bit about sales pricing, how that's laid out. And again, you have to do the math yourself and kind of figure out whether or not that makes sense. But in my mind, there's 4 keys to success on Amazon. If you have a product that is small and easy to pack, ship, and store, it's probably going to be successful. If you have a $10 to $50 price point, your product's probably going to be successful on Amazon. If you have branding potential with other companies, so let's say you do sell coffee or bone broth and you can do a co-market with another coffee company, or maybe you have like a hotel brand that you can brand it with, that sort of thing. That's a good key to success. And then low competition. You don't want to jump into a category that already has a lot of brand leaders in it and name recognition, or you can go right on Amazon, look up your product and see how many listings there are. So if you have low competition, so small, easy to ship, $10 to $50 price point, branding potential, and low competition. Those are really the 4 things that will help you be successful selling your product on Amazon. Do we have any questions about Amazon or any other information that would be helpful? You can type it in if you do. I will say, one of the interesting things that I found in doing some research is the very first item sold on Amazon. Do you remember anyone, I can't see any faces, but when Amazon used to be a bookstore? That's all it used to be when they started. And the first item sold was a book called Computer Models of the Fundamental Mechanisms of Thought. Very heavy. Anyway, that's the first product sold on Amazon, and look how far they've come. So we could be sitting here in a few years talking about your product and the very first one that you sold, and that would be amazing, right? Okay, let's go to selling on Etsy. So Etsy is a great site for people starting up with a lot of people sell one-of-a-kind merchandise. I'm showing dog leashes here, which probably is not the best example because there's a million dog products now. And these dog leashes are pretty much normal dog leashes. But typically on Etsy, you're going to find a lot of really interesting and different products. You're also going to find generally a higher quality product than you can find on Amazon, where a lot of that is mass produced, a lot of items from China. And they do verify things like vintage. Etsy is really involved in the curation of their products, and They want to make sure that what they're selling is high quality. And a lot of sellers on Etsy will establish a presence off Etsy. So maybe they're a designer of, or an artist, let's say, and then they're going to sell their products also on Etsy. So it gives them another sales channel. You build your name and your seller profile, and it's very important on Etsy. There's a lot more communication on Etsy. It feels more like a community. So you'll need to be involved in that process. And then you're charged a fee to list, transaction fee, and payment fee. And we'll talk about what those fees are. And then Etsy, you also have to be aware of taxes. Etsy's not taxing you, so you have to make sure you're declaring that income because they do report it and you need to pay taxes on it separately. So that's a little confusing thing about Etsy and anyone wanting to sell there. Now, the top sellers on Etsy are a little bit different than Amazon. The number one seller on Etsy is jewelry. When I say jewelry, the number one seller of the number one seller is beads. So beads are the top seller on Etsy, which is very odd. I think it's people making things out of beads. I don't really know. I'm not a bead person, but jewelry and beads, really that kind of handmade, curated merchandise. Vintage clothing is huge on Etsy. Original art, I've bought a lot of art off of Etsy and I love it. The same with furniture, home goods, accessories, and personal gifts, personalized gifts. I've also bought some of those off of Etsy and they have a lot of really cool things in that realm. So if you have that sort of product, it probably fits really well on Etsy. They sell other products as well, and they sell some mass merchandise products, but that's not typically what Etsy is known for. So Etsy's fee is going to be about $10 a month or 20 cents per listing to list products, and then 6.5% transaction fee. And I have plus or minus 3% because it could go up to almost 10% and then it could be lower, depending on your product, depending on what your sales volume is, etc. They have a lot of stipulations within Etsy, so you can go on and do the math based on what you might be selling and kind of look into their setup information. In addition, if you sell more than $10,000 a month on Etsy, they will automatically add an offsite ad fee of 12%. So you're going to need to pay that fee because they will take your product and they advertise it, and they have a great advertising program across social, etc. They will also ask you to pay that $10,000 if you are selling, the offsite ad fee if you're selling less than that, but you can decline that. It's an option for you if you want to do ads or not for your product. I recommend, at least at first, not doing the ads until you are sure kind of what your sales are going to be without it. Then you'll have a benchmark and then you can measure if you want to pay that 12% ad fee. So even with the 12% and the transaction fee, it's going to be cheaper generally than selling on Amazon. But it's a much more niche market on Etsy in terms of what your product is. The other thing is, if you're selling something like handmade jewelry and you try to sell it on Amazon, most likely people are going to be able to find something similar cheaper. So Etsy is great because it's more for people that appreciate that value of handmade, that they know they can get something cheaper, but they're going to Etsy because they appreciate the craftsmanship, let's say. So that's the nice thing about Etsy. If you're doing something in small batch, a lot of times for food, for example, if we do sauces or things that are small batch, they might do better on Etsy than they would on like an Amazon type site. And what's cool about Etsy is they have a program with Square where you can actually buy something on Etsy and then pay for it in a store using their Square point of sale system. So you can kind of do that omni-channel situation using Etsy, which is great. So any questions on Amazon and Etsy before we move ahead? All right, you can always put a question in the chat if you have one. So let's talk about getting into retail and why that would be important. Let's go back to Etsy because there's one other thing that I wanted to add here. Etsy is 86% female. That's their demographic. And so if you have a product that is specific to females, especially if it's like a small batch, kind of handcrafted, curated type product, Etsy is a great place for that. That demographic is just huge. So think about that. Wedding products are awesome on Etsy, any of those type of things. Just wanted to mention that. So I have a product that is selling online. Why would I want to get into retail? Depending on what type of product you have, having a retail presence can be really important. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of big brands, which would be like Glossier. If you know that beauty brand, they really started on Instagram and they became popular from Instagram ads. And then they ended up opening a flagship store on Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles. And now they have stores kind of everywhere where people can go and test and touch and feel those products. So even though it's a giant online brand, having those actual shops and boutiques was really important to them. Same with Warby Parker. So Warby Parker famously sells their glasses online. You can order 5 frames. They come to your house. You try them on. You send them back. You order your glasses and they ship them to you. So Warby Parker now has a lot of brick and mortar locations. In fact, there's one right by my house and I love it because I've always got my glasses from Warby Parker, but now I like going in and actually trying the frames. So a lot of those brands that were built online are extending into retail, and it allows for the customer experience. Post-COVID, the customer experience is really, really important. It's becoming more important as customers can buy more things online and the ease of purchase is there. But consumer goods are also more expensive. And so the customer does expect an experience to be involved. They want to go shopping for beauty products and be able to test them. Or maybe Sephora has a really awesome lipstick generator where you can scan your face and it will show you with all different types of lipstick. And so those kind of experiences are really driving retail. And if you have a brand that would lend itself to that sort of thing, it's really cool. If you're selling earbuds, for example, and maybe there's a partnership where you could go into a small record store and you could let people test those headphones. Getting into local stores is a really cool way to hit a market. Where I live is a place called Lucadia, which is kind of a downtown surf town. And a lot of people do pop-ups there with some of the local boutiques. So if you have a product that would be good for surfers, you can go into this store, Seaweed and Gravel. They do pop-ups. You can have people check out your products, buy them. You can tell them where you sell online. This store, Threadspun, she has a shop and she also sells online. And what she does with her online store is she allows local people that do ceramics or candles or those type of products to sell not only in her store, but on her online store. And they pay her a percentage to be able to do that. So it's nice because they get the exposure in her store. This store, Aloha Bungalow, again, they started selling surfwear online, but they opened up a retail location to kind of build that brand. They do events, etc. So that's a nice way to get your product out there, especially if it's a product that would benefit from people touching, feeling, or tasting. Food is a great example of that. We've worked with a brand called Laird Superfoods, which is Laird Hamilton and his wife, Gabrielle Reese. They have a brand of protein powders and coffee creamers and really healthy alternatives to some of the mass marketed products. And so for them, even though they sell it online, they got into grocery because they want people to be able to sample and taste. So they go out and they do samplings, and it's really cool for them because they have some big name celebrities behind it. We've seen a lot of that with celebrity alcohols, et cetera. Not really the ideal product to sell online, but just the idea that they're in stores sampling, talking to people, building that brand. And that can be really important for an online brand as well. So consider maybe small boutiques or small stores or small groceries that you might get into. Maybe you have a nut butter that you're selling and it's all online, but you get into a few local grocery stores to kind of build that following and allow for that sampling. Pop-ups, again, are great. Local events. So if you have an art walk in your town, maybe you can get out there and have your art there and let people know. We had an artwork here recently and almost everybody had just a really great QR code that you could scan if you wanted to look at art online and maybe look at different sizes or different versions of things that the artists are working on. And then farmers markets are a great place to have proof of concept. And that means if you're looking to eventually go into a brick and mortar, or if you are just wanting to build some brands and get some customer feedback, you can go out to farmers markets, whether you have a food product. A lot of farmers markets now are doing other products as well. Maybe you have a new type of wine corkscrew that you want to test out, or a different type of product that you want to get in people's hands. And you can talk with your customers about what they like and don't like, and then you can direct them to your online store so that they can order it. We've seen this we have a brand that started at a farmer's market, and they're actually a subscription salad service. So they would sell the salads at farmers markets, get people to sign up for the delivery subscription, and now they're selling exclusively online. And we run ads for them on in search marketing, on Facebook and Instagram, and some digital ads as well. But they really got their start at the farmer's market. They found proof of concept because people would sign up for this subscriptions, and now they're doing really well selling them online. So that's really the importance of getting into retail, even though it might seem a little overwhelming, particularly if you're just starting to sell online. But honestly, having that presence is a really important part of building online sales. And then essential marketing elements. So putting your product online and getting it ready to sell is great, but it's not an if you build it, they will come situation. It is a situation of how do you continue to build your brand. And one example that I have is from a product that we worked on called Real Wellness. And the CEO of Real Wellness is a football player called Ricky Williams. Ricky is a former Heisman Trophy winner at the University of Texas. And the cool thing about Ricky is these products are CBD products. He had a lot of troubles in the NFL with marijuana use and suspensions, et cetera, because at the time that was a banned substance in the NFL. So he ended up retiring early and he received a PhD in Chinese medicine and became an evangelist for herbal medicine. And his whole selling point was, hey, I have people in the NFL trying to give me these highly addictive painkillers, and I found something that worked, and I'm taking it now and I'm bringing it to other athletes. And he's a really cool guy that really lives the lifestyle of his brand. And so getting him out on podcasts, getting him out on Instagram lives, different news interviews, et cetera, was easy. He's obviously somebody who is a celebrity in his own right, but there's other stories. This is a doctor that has a product that she created. It's a low glycemic sweetener called Just Date, and it's date syrup. And she started the company as a doctor when her son was diagnosed with diabetes and was trying to come up with some alternatives, low glycemic alternatives to sweeteners. So her story is very interesting. She's had PR. She goes out and makes appearances, talks about the importance of health and lifestyle. This is a local couple that started a company where they have dividers for grocery carts. And they saw a problem, which was she had young kids. She would go grocery shopping. Everything was crazy. They would bring their own bags. It was mixed up. It would take them an hour to unload the groceries. So they created these little hanging bags that you can just put the fruit in one and the frozen fruit in one, frozen food and the canned goods, and then you just take them like a bag and take it home, easy to unload. It's pretty cool. So it's nice to see them out telling their story, talking about the problem that they have that their product solved. So that's really key, is we have another vendor called Drops of Dough. They do online sales of frozen cookie dough. And they partner with the Children's Pediatric Network. They help with donating to pediatric cancer research. So they sell primarily online, but they do go out to stores. They sell in a few specialty groceries. They do pop-ups. They do, in the beginning of school for college, they go out and do bike deliveries and all these kind of cute things to build their brand story. So that's an important thing to think about. What is the story? And when the first slide came up and I talked about what are you passionate about, that's something that's more and more important to consumers. Even if you're selling online, customers want to know the backstory. They want to know what's going into the product, unless your product is a complete commodity product, like you're selling, phone chargers. People want to know the story behind the product. So maybe your phone charger is something that uses 50% less energy. And maybe the reason that you created that is because you traveled and learned that 30% of the electricity used by hotels comes from phone chargers. So being able to connect those dots for customers is a really important thing. So the other essential marketing elements that you're going to need, even if you are selling online, would be the proactive promotions. Again, as I just talked about, getting your name out there is really, really key. You want to be proactive. You want to figure out what is your brand story and how you want to tell it. There certainly are marketing people that can help you with that, but I think the most authentic story is always going to come from you. So think about, as a founder, what you want people to know about your product. Again, unless you have a total commodity product, it's important that you do proactive promotions. This is the Drops of Dough ladies. This person does resin tables and cutting boards, etc. So they have their product in a couple of different boutiques. They work with the Surfrider Foundation to get the name out there. They have a couple of different promotions with different art walks, etc. So they're out there really doing a lot of things. Even though they're selling their brand online, they have this great Instagram page, and people know how they can find them. Being seasonal and fun. So if you do have a candle and you're selling in the fall, that's candle time, and you don't want to just do the regular pumpkin spice. So maybe you make something that would be timely and seasonal, maybe a Deion Sanders candle for the CU buffs. And that's something that's being talked about in the sports world right now, right? So being fun and seasonal is important, but you don't want to be seasonable like everyone else. Everyone's doing pumpkin spice. Is there a new way you can do pumpkin spice that nobody has thought of? So be fun with your promotions and your products. Make it something people want to talk about. And then courting that positive PR. So PR can be really important when launching a food product. There are big food companies that hire PR agencies to go out and create stories around their product. That is important. Some entrepreneurs will go on Shark Tank for their product, because even if you do not get an investment from Shark Tank, the exposure is very, very good for most businesses. So courting that type of PR, doing good things in the community like Drops of Dough, so people will be writing about you. It doesn't have to be a big PR agency. If you're local, you can get that PR in your community, and sometimes that gets the ball rolling, and that can raise your presence even on a national level at some point. But start local and think about what would be unique. Again, seasonal is important. If you're selling bedding products, maybe daylight savings is your time to shine, right? So daylight savings is coming up, and we sell pillows. And so we're going to go on the local news and talk about the importance of sleep. Or we're going to write a blog about what a difference your pillow can make in your sleep, and why that's critically important in daylight savings. I just had a statistic that said the daylight savings in the spring, there's like a 13% increase in heart attacks the next day, something like that. So find those statistics and then go out and get on that local news or write a blog about it, court that PR, depending on what product you're selling. And that's where a good marketing person can help you with ideas. Social presence. You have to be on social. You have to have an Instagram page, Facebook, maybe you're on YouTube. TikTok is really important. And that can feel overwhelming. And you should find someone to help you. Usually it's a younger person who is really good at that type of stuff. I know my staff, my 20-year-olds are really great at content. I am not, but social media, for the most part, is not going to drive a big increase in your sales. That's not going to be the crux of your business. It is going to be a place that people can come to learn more about you and your story and your product. And so it's become what I call table stakes. Everyone needs to have a good social presence. Everyone needs to have social sites that tell you about them. LinkedIn. I hate LinkedIn. I feel like it's really cringy, but I feel like I do need to be on there. and be talking about my agency and what we're up to. And so for you all, having that social presence is important. It doesn't have to be new content every day. It doesn't have to be a large expense, because the reality is, unless you're paying for ads on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, a lot of people are not going to see your content, but it's going to be there should they go and look at it. So TikTok certainly can drive the sales of products that go viral. Everyone wants that. It's kind of a one in a million shot, but by all means, if you have the resources, you should absolutely be doing that and creating content for TikTok and YouTube. And especially if you have fitness products, you should definitely be on YouTube and creating content, but also advertising. Facebook and Instagram, I think it's down to 1% organic rate on their feed, meaning, I'm not saying that right, sorry. Meaning if you have 100 followers, only one of those people is going to see your post on their feed or your story, because most people getting seen on Instagram are paying for that presence in terms of business sites. If you have content that people are clicking on, liking, that number will go up. But if you think you can just put up an Instagram post and everyone will see it and that's going to drive sales, that's not really how it works, unfortunately, anymore. So have a presence, but also don't have too high of expectations of what that's going to do for your business. If you do have advertising money, there's other places you can put that money. You can certainly advertise with Google search, and that's a great place to have people find your product. You can do advertising through local digital. A lot of local websites will have those options. You can do that by demographic. I really like kind of those targeted approaches, because most small businesses don't have money for big national advertising campaigns. So I would say start with Google search, start with Facebook and Instagram ads, and then grow from there. And a good ad budget really depends on your product and your price point, but it doesn't have to be a lot. That's the nice thing today. Advertising has really, the playing field has really leveled out. People that used to not be able to afford to advertise can do it. And we work, for example, with like small restaurant groups. And if you have 2-3 restaurants in Los Angeles, you cannot afford to advertise in the whole Los Angeles DMA. You can't afford to run radio or television or all of those things. And you really can't even afford to do YouTube ads because they have a pretty high minimum. But you can do really targeted local display ads that come up on people's phone or websites, or Google search. And you can do that for a few $1,000s, and it really just hits the market, the people that you want. If you're in LA, if you're in, let's say, Long Beach, and you're advertising in the whole DMA, you're going to hit people up in Santa Clarita or places they would never come to Long Beach, because most retail businesses, it's a 3-mile radius. That's where you want to hit your customers. So having that really targeted presence is possible even at a small budget, and that will help drive your online sales. Partnerships with like-minded brands. This is a way to extend your presence, extend your brand, and also can be really mutually beneficial. So if you're selling window coverings, for example, and you want to work with a window manufacturer, that's a great partnership. And you can perhaps do presence on their website with a blog or a special discount for them if they're buying your products online, etc. So creating those partnerships, you can make a list of complementary brands and just contact them and see what they're interested in doing. Because for the most part, if you have a good social presence, if you have a good customer base, especially to be able to email to them, partnerships make a lot of sense. And email is not on here as a marketing option specifically, but it's so, so important. If you use a platform like Shopify, too many similarly named websites, but if you use a program like Shopify, you can get a list of abandoned cart customers. So people that come and put something in their cart and then they don't purchase. And you should have a system in place to email them. Shopify can help you with that, or your marketing person, where they're getting that email. Maybe it's a 2, 3, 4 time drip campaign that they would receive saying, hey, you left something in your cart. Maybe one of those emails offers them, we'll give you free shipping if you order it now. So having a robust email program, especially for repeat customers, is really important. If you have seasonal goods, hey, we just got our new stadium seats out, check them out. You can buy them on Amazon, or you can buy them here directly. That email list is like gold. So keep building it. People still do open and read emails. It's important. My agency sends a couple 100,000 emails a week in terms of the overall universe of customers. And they do work and they do drive sales. And so that's really, really important in terms of a tool. And then other items, as you grow your online business, just a side note is if you're looking to get bought or merged, keeping those investor materials looking good and creating one sheets and making your website make sense and keeping track of all those metrics, etc. That's something to keep in the back of your mind if you're looking to grow your company eventually to garner investment or sales. And the really cool thing about selling online is you have metrics. They can tell how many people are looking at your products. They can tell who is buying your products, and they can tell conversion rates. That's a big one. We've prepared a couple of online companies for sale, product-based companies. And this information is just really important to keep in track so you're not reinventing it should you need it. And hopefully, if you want to sell your company at some point, that'll be relevant to you. So I'm going to start wrapping up and just give you some tools and links. I think this presentation is going out, but I highly recommend going to the website for SCORE. And if you don't know what SCORE is, they are a nonprofit that offers business mentorship. And a lot of times for SCORE, it's retired CEOs that they're doing volunteer time to help young entrepreneurs and to help startups. I do a lot of speaking at SCORE for people starting up restaurants, but they work with all types of businesses. So you can get a mentor through SCORE to help you, but they have this business plan template that's fabulous. And anybody starting up an online company or brick and mortar should really make sure they have that solid business plan. There's a great article on a site called Jungle Scout with all the steps of getting started on Amazon. They lay it out really clearly. The same with another site called Wonder Label about opening an Etsy shop. And if you are Googling things about all these platforms, make sure that you always put 2023 in the search, because the information for all of these sites changes so rapidly. The algorithms change rapidly. The restrictions on writing it. We used to write Amazon copy all the time, and now it's getting so complicated that you really almost need to specialize in that. And then there's another site called Fit Small Business that has a point of sale comparison platform and other good resources where you can plug in numbers and get a sense of costs of doing online sales. So I recommend going to all of those resources and doing your research. And I'm used to more Q&A, obviously, but if you have questions or want to connect, this is my information and website. I'm always happy to answer questions that you might have about starting your business online. And I know that Madison and team also have that information readily available. So you can feel free to contact me, and I'm going to stop the share and see if we have any questions or any comments or anything else that you all would like to share. And if not, I know they're recording that. So any other questions in the chat or anything you would like more information on from me? For speaking, you are welcome. Any questions I didn't answer that you have? I know there's probably, sometimes when you go to these, there's more questions that come up than answers, and you leave feeling, I don't know if I can do this, but you can. Just the fact that you're attending a workshop to get information is great. I would say focus on the business plan for sure. Be realistic about social media and how you can sell. Um, and again, having that authentic story is really key. People really like and connect with that. And I think that's going to become more and more important. As you know, you can get your mass marketed products through Amazon, through the, that's fine. That's all become commoditized. So the more unique you can be, I think that's really a selling point, especially on some of these other sites.